Well, hello there, ladies and gents, and welcome back to Modern Wealth Management. Ryan Ruff here, your moderator. Great to be back with everybody today. And as always, I'll be joined by my right-hand man, star of our show, and that's, of course, Darrick Hutchins, co-founder of Monon Wealth Management. We're going to be getting into a really interesting topic today, one that allows us to take a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, if you will. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of all that, let's go ahead and say hi to Darrick. Darrick, good to see you today. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, Ryan. I'm happy to be here, and I think that today's going to be interesting. You challenged me to, as you say, peek behind the curtain and show you a little bit about some of the stuff that my family and I that we do for ourselves. And it's always it's a little intimidating being on this other side, right? So I'm in the only profession in the world that it's polite to ask. How much money do you have and how much money do you make, right? That's
Right,
not really
right.
that we're taught from an early age not to ask that. But here I am on the other side, and while I'm not going to be given any specific numbers, I am going to show some of the strategies and so forth that I use.
I love it. I love it. So, I mean, it's interesting. You advise so many successful business owners and families to navigate the challenges of their financial worlds, but also life and the curveballs that were thrown along the way. We're going to be obviously jumping into some of these things, but before we kind of get into your family strategy, as you just mentioned from a financial perspective, why did you feel that like this was an important topic? You know, that you did want to allow the audience to take a look behind that curtain and ultimately share some of your best practices.
Well, I don't think that it's a secret that I look to work with entrepreneurs, business owners, high achieving individuals, successful people. All of those that I just mentioned are things that I'm also um, striving to attain, right? I'm trying to do well myself. And that's one of the reasons that I think this has been such a nice fit for me as a career is that I'm a really driven person, and I want to do well for myself and my family. And it just so happens that those are the same kinds of people that also need my services. So, a little peek behind the curtain says, "Hey, I'm relatable. I have the same concerns, issues, inherent demons, and and make the same mistakes that we all do."
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm also going to show is that, hey, I'm a business owner. I have two kiddos. I have a wife. I have goals. I want to show you how I'm organizing my financial affairs to try and obtain the goals that I have set for me and my family.
No, this is great. And in terms of organizing those financial affairs, Darrick, I know we kind of broke the conversation down into kind of four key areas today. Why don't you lay those out for us? And then, of course, we'll double click into each.
And we did that, Ryan, because that's the way that we think about wealth management here at Monon Wealth. We think about wealth management as a formula being investment consulting plus advanced planning and relationship management. Investment consulting, we know it is what you think it is. It's helping our clients and ourselves make good decisions with the money that we already have. The advanced planning breaks it down a little bit further, where we're really talking about tax mitigation and cash flow planning. Doesn't matter what stage in life you're in, paying less taxes and managing your cash flow is important. The second part is wealth protection. And I always do this with my arms when I say wealth protection, because I think it symbolizes what I'm talking about. It's like,
Sure.
let's get our arms around the stuff we already have and make sure that it can't be taken away from us unjustly. And when I say unjustly, I'm typically talking about two things: uh, divorce and or litigation. We live in an extremely litigious society right now, and anybody that has acquired any wealth wants to do everything legally possible to shield that away from lawsuits and so forth. Then the third part of advanced planning is wealth transfer. And anybody that listens to this show, we all know at some point our time comes, right, where we're no longer we're no longer alive. And when that happens, if you've done well in life, more likely than not, you're going to have some assets to pass on to the next generation. I'm currently in a situation right now where that next generation needs those assets. My kids are 9 and 11 years old this summer, and they're not done, right? We still got a lot of things for them to do, and it's going to require money for that to happen. And so, taking care of the next generation, taking care of your heirs, is just is something that's really important and something that's super important to me. Then the last piece is charitable. Um, we work with some of the most generous clients in the world, and about 70% of our clients donate to some kind of a charity and or cause that they feel really drawn to. I will tell you that I am a Christian, and I every single month I give to our church. That's something that I feel is a responsibility of mine, and something that I gladly do, and it's built into the plan. So, with the reason that we've broken it out into the sections that we have is because this is the way that we frame wealth management for each and every one of our clients.
Perfect. Well, Darrick, let's start getting into the weeds a little bit of each of those sections. Let's lead off here with the one you mentioned first and foremost, and that was the investment planning. The savings and investment strategies along the way. Why don't we start here, and we'll work through some of the other items you mentioned.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that here in just a second. But I also have something else to say, Ryan, and that is that I got to tell you. So I'm 47 years old, and I got married a little later in life, and so therefore I had children a little later in life. And I got to tell you that the things I'm going to show you, and the work that I've done for our own family, I'm far from perfect. This, had you met me 10, 11, 12 years ago, I didn't have any of this stuff in place. And the reason for that is because at that time, it wasn't important to me. All right. And so what I brought up here on the screen is these are my kids. This is Faith and Jackson, and they are my why. They are the reason that I take so much interest in designing and protecting the wealth management plans that we have for our family. And I got to tell you, so much has happened since I got my why. When we found out that we were pregnant with Faith, I'd had CFP, Certified Financial Planning books, sitting on my desk for multiple years. I finally had my why, and I dug in. Shortly after she was born, I left my employer, a bank, and started Monon Wealth Management. That was extremely challenging, as any business owner knows. But I was willing to go through that again because I had finally found my why. So as we frame this conversation, the things that you're going to have to do to get your finances in order, well, while it may not be physically demanding, it can be tough, and tough in the mindset of prioritizing and then staying dedicated to the programs that you put in place. So the first thing I'm going to suggest here is that for everybody that's listening out there, discover your why. You may already have it, and if you haven't, you need to figure it out, because until you do, designing and staying on track of any financial course is going to be difficult. I have a quote that's pulled up here, and I'm just going to read it. It says, "A father's worth is often weighed by his ability to provide, as though his love must earn its keep through the currency of provision." And I've heard different quotes about that in the past. I mean, I've been a father now for 11 years, and the burden of being the provider for the family, it's a heavy weight. And so, but I think it's important. It's important to know what your place is in this world, and also the responsibility that we have. And I wanted to show that to the audience. When we talk about investment planning and so forth, everybody wants to jump straight into the investments. Okay, Darrick, what do you invest in? And while we are going to get into that, the first thing that I really wanted to show you was my cash flow strategy for accumulation. So um, for 24 years now, ever since the beginning of my career, I've been talking to clients about their cash flow strategies and how they use the income that they have to fund their most important goals. Up here on the screen, I have my flow chart. This is exactly how my money flows. And you can see there that it starts off that just like everybody else, I get a paycheck. Okay, I get a paycheck each and every month, and it is what it is. But before I get that, you'll notice that I'm sending some money into my 401k retirement savings program. That is the very first place that I choose to save. There's a couple of different reasons for that. The first is that it's built a great habit of saving for me. The second reason is that from a tax perspective, it's a really great deduction that I get from my income. So there's a certain amount each and every year that you can use to max out your 401k. Not everybody has to max it out, but I do think that everybody should be taking advantage of this 401k retirement savings vehicle. And that gets funded before it hits our bank account. From my bank account, the first thing that happens once it gets there is I have three different buckets that I send money to, and I send them each and every month the same amount on the same same day of the month. Now that amount has changed over time. There are certain seasons in life that allow for more savings than others. So as my business has grown, maybe that number's gone up. With something else pops up in our life, something that needs to be done with my house or something like that, maybe that number gets ratcheted down a little bit, but the number is set. So right now, I mean, I've already funded for this month, and the number is already set for the following month as to how much is going into these different buckets. The first place that I always send money is to my cash savings program. I use a program called Flourish, and we're going to get into that here in just a little bit. But I think it's important to have some cash reserves for emergencies and opportunities. And so that's the very first place that I send money each and every month. The second place is that I have a stock account, an after-tax stock account that gets funded each and every month. I spend absolutely no time on that decision as far as, hey, is the market's up, the market's down, there's a recession in the forecast, hey, we're in the middle of a bear market, we're in the middle of a bull market. None of that stuff factors in, because I'm building the habit of each and every month I am going to make a contribution into this stock portfolio. At the conclusion of my life, I can look back and I'll say, hey, clearly there were some of those buys were better than others. But as we're doing it, we don't know. If the market's currently at all-time highs, that doesn't mean that it's done going up. And if the market has gone down for the last couple of months in a row, it doesn't mean it's going to go down forever. So I just systematically put money into my selected stock program, and again, do it each and every month. And then the third place that gets funded each month is my kids' 529 college savings programs. Again, we're going to get into this here in just a little bit about the advantages, but I got to tell you that ever since they came home from the hospital, they have had college savings programs. And on a monthly basis, I have been funding those. And because of that, here we are, 9 and 11, somewhere around halfway to needing this money. And I feel really good about the way that has gone. So, so those are the three places that I allocate money each and every month. Sometimes I use that cash account. I told you it was for emergencies and opportunities. Well, the second one's better. Opportunities are better. And that's actually how I fund some of my real estate projects, which again, we're going to talk about. Okay. So that's a little bit, that's how I organize the cash flow, and that's gonna, that's what I believe is appropriate for me. Everybody needs to work with their advisor and or the team that they've assembled to get that strategy in place for themselves. I mentioned to you that the first place that I save is my cash savings program, and I've used some different ones in the past, but the one that I'm currently excited about is called Flourish Cash. Flourish Cash is an FDIC insured savings account that I have linked directly to my primary checking bank account. And, every single month I sweep some over there. And currently Flourish Cash, so currently is that we're in here, we're in the middle of May 2024. Currently, they're paying 5% FDIC insured on my cash, and it's not locked up. So I'm very aware that there's CDs and different stuff that also is paying 5%. This here is 100% liquid and FDIC insured. Now, it's going to float on you a little bit. I remember when interest rates were near zero. Well, when interest rates were at zero, this wasn't paying 5, but it was paying more than zero. So while they're, if you search every day, you may find, hey, this one's paying more this time, or this checking program or money market's paying more now. I feel very comfortable in the fact that no matter what the interest rate environment is, Flourish Cash is going to be in the ballpark of some of the highest rates available. And I don't worry about the safety of that money at all. The second bucket that I talked to you about was my stock accounts. And I want to take you back in time a little bit and think through calendar year 2022. Just a couple of years ago, 2022 was a tough year in the stock market, and just about everything that had floated up from the COVID bump, and I'm talking about your Pelotons, your cryptocurrencies, your ARK investments, all this stuff, the stuff that had gotten super hot during COVID. Well, in 2022, it all came back to earth. And so it doesn't really matter what asset classes you were in or what investments you were in 2022. They got hit. I think that the NASDAQ that year was down somewhere around a third. So that's not insignificant. You lose 33% of your money in 1 year. That's a hit. And but that year, my family and I got a chance to go for a little vacation before we got into the new year, before we got into 2023. And while I was on vacation, like I do most years, I wrote myself out a number of goals, a number of things that I wanted to accomplish and mentalities that I wanted to have taking into the next year. And my number one goal for calendar year 23, as it related to my personal finances, was that I wanted to design and invest within a program that I can live with. I want to explain that because I've told that to a lot of different people, and maybe it doesn't resonate with everybody. But, Ryan, I want you to think through this for a minute. I'm in the investment business. I am an RIA. So basically, any investment opportunity that exists in the free market, I have access to grab hold of it. And I can do the due diligence on it and decide whether or not it's appropriate for me, if it's appropriate for my clients. And but because of that availability, I probably get somewhere around 250 to 450 solicitation emails per week.
Mm.
Different investment programs, different salespeople from investment programs that want to meet with me. And Ryan, you think any of them are telling me that their deal isn't good?
Can't imagine that.
Every single one of them, it's the deal that I need to
Hmm.
get involved with.
Sure.
So part of my job as an investment advisor and wealth manager is to know what's out there and to know what's available, to look into this stuff. That's what my clients expect for me to do. And so, so I do. I can't say I read all 250 or 400 emails, but I know what's going on. I review them. I know what I want to look at, what I don't. But because of that, because I'm constantly being hit with new ideas, it's easy for me to get excited about one thing or another. You know, when real estate was showing annualized returns of 35% a year, well, who wouldn't want to be involved in that? When cryptocurrency goes up by 150% in a year, well, who wouldn't want to be involved in that? Um, on the contrary, when the NASDAQ dropped by a third in calendar year 22, well, who wouldn't want to sidestep that one? Right? So I'm constantly being hit with all these different ideas, different market timing strategies, and so forth. And really, at the conclusion of 22, heading into 23, I came up with the mantra is that I wanted an investment program that I can live with. And what that means is it means really three things to me. First of all, it's tax efficient. I think that I think tax efficiency is important. Tax mitigation is a goal of almost all of my clients, and it's something to pay attention to. The second thing that is inherent inside of a investment program I can live with is that it's well diversified. That it's not relying on me timing this going up and then I bail out of this and I get down into this and so forth. That's not going to work for me because just like everybody else out there, I'm emotional. I just have more information. Okay, and I'll give you a perfect example of that. Right now, there's a lot of talk and excitement about Japan and about Japan's stock market. The reason that there's talk about Japan's stock market is because basically for the first time in my career, the Japanese stock market has hit new all-time highs. Uh, the Japanese stock market was a beast during the 80s and early 90s, and then it crashed, and it's just now getting back to all-time highs. So, while I see the guys on CNBC get excited about Japan and maybe you need to get into it now, well, I just had an opportunity to look in my portfolio and hey, good for me. I already own some Japan. It's been in my portfolio the entire ride up. So that's a perfect illustration of, just being diversified. That means that some part of my money was in this trade that it's done fantastic. And just now, people are starting to talk about it. They're just now talking about it after it's 100% up. Okay, so being well diversified means that I'm in lots of different stuff. But then the third thing is that I think it's important that you really understand the investment strategy and that it is both academically and scientifically based with real world results in both good times and bad. When I'm getting those 400 plus emails regarding different investment strategies, Ryan, um, almost all of them are fairly new. The investments that have been around for 30 years, the Vanguards of the world, the Dimensionals, Fidelity. Well, they're not shooting me a whole bunch of emails explaining to me who they are, because they're not new, and we all know who they are. It's always the new guy in town that has the largest marketing effort. And so my question has to be, um, what is it? What is your investment strategy based on? Is it academically and scientifically based? And then you have to go to the next one. What have the real world results been? And don't just tell me about how it's been, in the good times. You better have some results when things weren't so great, because that's when you really get hurt. So that's what I mean when I say an investment program that I can live with. Up here on the screen, I've got some of my favorite traditional investment partners, and we've got Avantis, Alliance Bernstein, Vanguard, Dimensional, which is absolutely one of my favorites. iShares. There isn't anything on this screen that's not currently in that stock portfolio that I'm dripping money into. And some of these, the people on this podcast may be very, very familiar with. Others may be new. I mean, I would just tell you that Dimensional, for example, has been around for a really long time. It's academically and scientifically based, with a whole bunch of real world experience, a lot more real world experience than what I have as an advisor. So even when times are tough, and which they will be, that's part of it. Um, I have the confidence in what I'm invested in so that I can stick through it and live through uh, whatever is next.
Sure. And Darrick, that goes through a common theme that we've had so far here on season 2 of the show, in having a plan, sticking with it, and not leaning into the emotions when they do pop up. Just so important when it comes to investment
Yeah,
allocation.
I think it's one thing, Ryan, just to sit there and say, "Hey, I'm going to really be tough, and I'm going to get through this." Well, okay, that's one thing. I guess I'm just not wired like that. I have to actually have reason and have proof as to why this is going to work in the long run. And if I can go back in time and see that this strategy has made it through and prospered, even when times weren't great, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for.
Sure. Well, Darrick, I mean, there's investment consulting as a whole is just a beast of a conversation. Appreciate you obviously opening up your strategies, your thoughts, and of course your thought process leading into those decisions that you make. But let's shift over to another big realm of kind of your financial world, and that's tax efficient strategies, combating taxes, mitigating them. You had mentioned maxing out that 401k, putting money into the 529 for your kids. Let's dive into this, and how it is that your portfolio ultimately kind of combats the taxes that are
Yeah.
inevitable.
So I take a lot of different steps to combat taxes. Taxes are something that we all have to pay, and we'd all like to legally pay as few as possible, right?
Of course,
So
of course.
here's the different things that I have, and the very first and the best armor that I have against taxes is the fact that my business is set up as an S corporation. What that means is that the business is an entity of itself, for which I am both owner and employee, and um, it allows for me to separate my employment income, which is going to be just like everybody else's, with uh, the profits of the business that I run and own. So it's that an S corp. It allows for me to be an employee and get paid like an employee, and at the exact same time be a shareholder of the corporation. S corps allow for you to do a lot of different things, including the fact that a lot of the experiences and stuff that I have and purchase. Well, I do it with clients. I do it with prospective clients. I get an opportunity to go visit Boston in order to do due diligence on a an investment firm. I get an opportunity to go down to Florida to visit some of my clients down there. I use my personal vehicle to drive around town and meet with different clients. So the first thing that I really look at from a tax strategy is how's your business set up. If it's set up as an LLC or an S corp or a C corp, all those things they have different rules, and depending upon your goals and how your business flows cash, one might be better than the other. So that's first and foremost. The second thing that I do, we did already mention it, and that is I personally I max out my 401k. Haven't always maxed it out, but I do now, and so that allows for me to defer some of that income right off the top. Now, there's always a big argument about should I do traditional 401k or should I do Roth? I just tell you that I do traditional because I value the tax deduction in this year. The third thing is that, and I've mentioned this, is that I have consistently funded my kids' college savings program through the Indiana 529 plan. That actually has two different benefits. The first one is that the state of Indiana gives me a tax credit on my contributions. So tax credits are even better than a deduction. That's just a complete write-off of how much ever you owe them. So I've utilized that ever since the beginning. But then the second part is that the money that goes in there for my kids, it gets an opportunity to grow tax-free and ultimately come out tax-free at some point down the road. Again, eliminating taxes. The next thing is that within those, I went through the different investment partners and some of the stocks programs that I invest in. The one commonality amongst most of those is that they're extremely tax efficient. They are either tax efficient because of the structure of them or the low turnover. There isn't a single transaction I would ever make in a taxable account without first and foremost looking at the tax impact. Okay, and so that's another thing. It's just making sure that if I have a great investment program, it also has to be fairly tax efficient and have some reasons for being so. The next thing is that I am a real estate investor. I believe that real estate is an asset class that has a lot of advantages. I experienced one of those advantages this year when I received some of my K1s, and the fact that that those investment properties had utilized the depreciation of those to lower my tax bill. So there's a lot of different advantages of real estate, and it has income. You should get some capital appreciation, but the other one is that it's extremely tax advantaged. So I participate in that. One of those real estate projects is classified as a qualified opportunity zone. And this came about at the conclusion of 2020. I did participate in some of the high growth tech stocks. And at the conclusion of 2020, I had some significant capital gains that I didn't want to pay, to be honest with you. And a qualified opportunity zone allowed for me to roll those gains into a real estate investment, defer paying that tax for several years, and then eliminate the tax on the gain of that investment. So, it's multi-part here, is that I'm deferring the capital gains that I accepted from my tech stocks. And then obviously I expect for my real estate property to make money. Well, if it's within a qualified opportunity zone and you hold it long enough, you don't pay taxes on that either. So those are qualified opportunity zones. I've implemented a number of them for my clients. And as I just told you here, I do it for myself too, because I don't like paying taxes either.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one here on the list, I will tell you that in preparation for this, I was going through my plan and I recognized that I had an opportunity. My wife does not my wife does work, but she does not participate, or she's not even offered a company retirement plan where she's at. It's a small dental practice that just doesn't have that set up. Well, that means that she's eligible for a backdoor Roth. And that is something that beginning this year, because of this conversation, I am going to start implementing for her. A backdoor Roth basically allows for her to contribute to a Roth, even though we are outside the traditional income limits that would allow that kind of benefit. So this is just kind of a loophole that currently exists that allows higher income earners to contribute to Roth IRAs, which then it can grow tax-free and ultimately come out tax-free when my wife and I are retired. So I know it's a fairly long list, but it is fairly comprehensive as well. I take all those things pretty serious, and I implement each and every one of them, including, as of today, the backdoor Roth.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm glad progress was made in terms of preparation, of course, for today.
Yeah.
Um, well, Darrick, let's get into a very important part of this overall conversation. You had made the mannerism earlier, wrapping your arms around your wealth, that wealth protection plan. Let's get into your wealth protection plan and how it is that you orchestrate this and why you make some of the decisions you do make.
Yeah. So, wealth protection for a business owner starts off with isolating uh, the business assets and your personal assets. That's what the the S corp does so well. LLCs presumably do the same thing, and certainly a C corp does. But that's what you're trying to do, right? So, if you are a business owner and you're out there in the world marketing your products, or trying to make a difference, it is possible, right, to ruffle some feathers. And what you want to do is say that, hey, no matter what happens with the business, the money that I have made up to this point and kind of set aside to take care of my family, that's not intertwined. That I do have some protection in between. So again, I keep talking about my S corp, but it's a powerful tool, not only as it relates to taxes, but also as it relates to wealth protection. Once we get over to the personal side, I'm going to talk about some trust work that my family's done, but that's primarily to take care of my kids in case my wife and I went down together. But um, I would say that the majority of our wealth protection planning on the personal side is really around our insurance. And uh, I have, I think everybody knows I've been a financial advisor for 23, 24 years now, quite a while. But I didn't buy my first life insurance policy until the week after we found out we were pregnant with Faith. And so that would have been about 12 years ago. And I'll tell you, I bought my second term life insurance policy when we found out that we were pregnant with Jackson. And because that's the way that I think about life insurance for somebody like myself. And life insurance, when you're raising a young family, is really, you need a lot of it to compensate for the income that would be lost if you died early. And I'm not really looking to spend all of my savable assets, savable income. I'm not looking to send all that to an insurance company. I got other goals that I want to do. So my thing was is when I purchased life insurance, one, I didn't buy it until I needed it, and that was when I had children. And then the second thing is I bought the most least expensive life insurance that I could possibly find. I needed a big amount, but I didn't want to pay any more than I had to. So I personally picked out 20-year term policies on those. The thinking being that, at the point that that child, or at the point that that term policy runs out 20 years from now, um, well, presumably I will have saved for the child's education and they will be an adult. So that term policy served its purpose, and I wasn't interested in anything other than that. The second thing is that I have disability insurance. Now, you wouldn't think that somebody like, I typically think about disability for a surgeon, if they bust up their hand and they can't operate anymore. Well, that's obviously very important. But I will tell you that I've been out on disability before. I ruptured a couple of discs in my lower back and really made it almost impossible for 4 months for me to get to the office. It was a different stage in my career, but it made me value the disability coverage that I had at that point, and I have maintained that ever since. So, it is possible for guys like me to, get hit in the head and, mess us up. And so anyway, the disability insurance protects my income, not in the case of if I die, but if I am materially injured to a point where I can't do the same work I'm doing now. The third thing is our property and casualty insurance. And I'll tell you that I have, over the last several years, I started working with Shepherd, the Shepherd Agency here in Indianapolis. And I think that they just do a fantastic job. What I like about them is that they aren't proprietary. I think before then, I'm not sure who I had, maybe Allstate or State Farm or something like that. And they're going to do a great job by implementing the best that they have to offer, which is really just from their company. When I started talking with the guys from Shepherd, they really took a comprehensive look at the coverage that I needed, who I was as a person, and what what risk classes I would fall under, and then shopped those out to get me the right coverage at the best price that they could. Since I've started working with them, things have changed, right? I had a roof repaired, and I think the company either canceled me or raised raised the premium. But they shop it on a regular basis. So, if somebody raises the premium on you, well, then they've got 30 other companies that they can shop it amongst. And I really value having them on my team. Once you've picked up the property and casualty insurance, that's where, you have to have that in order to go to the next level, which is an umbrella policy. I have been concerned in the past about litigation from an accident or, a mistake by either me or one of my family members, or my dog biting somebody as they step on our lawn. All these things can be reasons for being taken to court. And so, up and above my property and casualty insurance, I think it's important to also have an umbrella policy. Umbrella says, hey, if the coverage that you have through your property and casualty isn't enough, this sits on top of it to increase that coverage. So really 4 different parts of my wealth protection plan, between my term life insurance, my disability that protects my income, my property and casualty insurance, and then overlayered that with my umbrella policy.
I love it. Darrick, a big part of really everything that you've gone through so far in this episode surrounds kind of family and the goals that you have for your family. So naturally, I think the segue at this point is to get into kind of the estate planning side of things. Some of the decisions you made going through, I know some of the trusts you had set up, but also, logic behind your decision making, why you chose what you did, and then of course, what the ripple effect of those decisions look like over time.
Yeah, well, so The estate planning that we've done, you know, again, I have a young family, and estate planning is best tackled by first and foremost deciding what is it that you want to have happen. Don't worry about the tactics, the techniques. That's why we have professionals, okay? But what I can't answer for you is if you and your spouse go down tomorrow, what do you want to have happen to everybody else? And so when I really started thinking about this, I think that the answer for me was no matter what happens to me, it's important that my wife Shannon and my two kiddos have a financial life that is equivalent to what it would be like if I was there. I want to maintain their standard of living. And so that's kind of how, that's how we started we started this off. And I went to an estate planning attorney, one that I do a ton of work with here in Indianapolis. Uh, she handles it for a lot of my clients. Um, and we really, and I expressed some of this concern to her, is it's that, my parents, unfortunately, are dead and gone, so they can't be there. Shannon's parents are definitely there in order to take care of my children. I love them, get them to sports events, live with them, cook them breakfast, get them on the school bus, all that, be their guardian. Okay. And they would do fantastic at that. But the other piece of this is that, I guess I'm not, I guess I have trust issues as it relates to the money piece. And it's not against any one person. It's just the fact that I really felt it was necessary to split the person that cares and loves for my kids and the person that takes care of the money for those kids. And so we put together we call it the Hutchins Family Trust. And the Hutchins Family Trust is really there to gather and hold all of the assets that we have, and properly invest and distribute those out to my kids as they need them, and then at some predefined ages. I remember what it's like being 25 years old, and I want to tell you, um, I, I didn't get a whole lot of inheritance, and I'm grateful for that because I don't think I would have handled it very well. So when I look at my kids, I'm saying, hey, of course, eventually this money does need to go to them, but I wanted to give it to them in a defined atmosphere, meaning a certain amount on some date, another amount on another date, and then a final distribution when they're older. And my thought process there, Ryan, is it allows for them to make some mistakes and not completely blow whatever inheritance we leave for them. The other thing that I did was, anybody that's on this, you probably know my associate, Stephanie. Stephanie's been with me for 11 years. I know a lot of people within the financial services industry, a lot of financial professionals, and yet despite all that knowledge, the person that I felt most comfortable handling my personal or my family's financial affairs when I'm gone is her. I see how diligent, how much she is with our clients, how much she cares, the thought process that she puts into the work that she does, the follow up that she does to make sure that every I is dotted and T is crossed. And I want to tell you that, at 25 years of experience doing this, that's really rare. So recently, I actually made her the trustee, if I were gone, that she's now the trustee of that trust. So basically, my entire estate planning is based around taking care of my heirs in my absence. And that's a little bit about how I set that up.
Of course. And Darrick, I know you had an interesting moment, in your life where it was kind of oh shoot moment, if you will. Uh, you guys were on vacation when that moment had happened. And I think it speaks really well to all the work that you've done estate planning wise from that moment on. Tell me about that moment.
Well, that's, this is one reason I kicked off this conversation by telling people that, the plan I have today, it wasn't like, oh, I just, day one in the industry, in my industry, I set all this up. No, I mean, I grew into it and bumped my, kind of made some mistakes along the way. Um, but where we were is that the kids were extremely young. I think they were 2 and 4. And Shannon and I had an opportunity to go on our very first vacation without the kids. And we were scheduled to leave at, I don't know, 7 in the morning. Maybe our flight was leaving. We were going out to California, and we're excited to do so. I woke up somewhere around 2:30 that morning, almost in a cold sweat, a real panic. And the panic was, if that plane goes down with Shannon and I on it, I'm not so sure anybody knows where our stuff is or how it's supposed to be used to take care of my kids. And I did not feel comfortable with that, hence my anxiety. So I went downstairs, brewed a pot of coffee, and over drinking the pot of coffee, I basically created an old school will. Okay, on a yellow sheet of paper, I wrote down where all the assets were, where the life insurance policies were, what my wishes were for how the kids are taken care of, and so forth. And Shannon comes down a couple hours later and comes in my office, and I'm like, "Here, I need you to sign this." Well, Shannon doesn't just sign things, so she starts looking at it, and she goes, "Well, what is it?" And I told her what I just told you. And she looks up at me and said a comment that I will never forget. She goes, "I can't believe we don't already have this done." And that really hit me like a ton of bricks, because she's absolutely right. In the profession that I'm in, for me to be piecing this thing together 2 hours before we go on vacation without a whole lot of thought to it, it was just inappropriate. So uh, inevitably, she did sign that. We didn't need it, thank God. Um, and then when we got back from vacation, we consulted with our estate planning attorney to put in the work that I've already told you about.
No, I love that story. I think it's one that's probably very relatable to a lot of folks out there, whether or not they are in the wealth management space themselves or not. But
Well, I get a chance to
yeah,
I get a chance to talk to a lot of people, right?
yeah.
And they're it's something, as it relates to estate planning. A lot of times they recognize that they need to do it, but the complexities, or who do I talk to, or who do I want to take care of my kids? It's always like some minuscule detail that keeps us from taking the next step.
Mhm.
And what I would just encourage everybody to do is, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to make progress on it.
Sure, sure. Well, I mean, this is a natural segue then, Darrick. I mean, we've thrown a lot at our audience. You've divulged a ton of the plans, the thought processes, your reasoning and rationale behind a lot of this to the audience today. If you had to whittle a lot down to a little and give them kind of some key takeaways, just some parting words, what would those be?
Well, I think the main thing is I want people out there, whether you're currently a client of Monon Wealth or a prospective client, or if we'll never meet, I want you to know that the same things that I advise, well, I believe in them so much that I see them as best in class for me and my family as well. And that's uncommon. A lot of people in our industry, they may be advising on one thing or another, but if they were truthful when you asked them, "Hey, are you doing this yourself? Are you investing in this yourself? Is this the way that you have yours set up?" Unfortunately, the answer is no. And it may be good reason, a different stage in life or whatever. But I don't feel like I really have anything to hide. The tools and the stuff that I'm using here is exactly what I would suggest somebody in a similar situation as mine to be doing with their own money. And And so that, that really is one of my key takeaways. The second key takeaway, Ryan, is that I, I've tried to be as honest as I can that, I'm not perfect. As a matter of fact, going through this, I found an opportunity for Shannon to do that backdoor Roth. I'm not perfect. And the plan that I have put in place, well, that's many years in the making. And this is, 24 years in my career. These are the tools and the resources, the products that I view as currently best in class. And that's what I'm not only implementing them for myself, but for our clients as well.
Of course. Now, of course, today we were talking about Darrick Hutchins, that Hutchins Family Trust. But you have these conversations with your clients, prospects, even to go through, their investment allocation, their tax mitigation strategy, their estate planning efforts, the whole 9 yards. For anybody out there in our audience that your story resonated with them. Maybe you piqued their curiosity, or they're scratching their heads thinking, "Oh, yikes! I should probably get on something that Darrick mentioned today." What would be the best way somebody could reach out to you and your team and just start a conversation on whatever that item might be, so that they can feel that sense of satisfaction and relief that maybe you felt once you visited that estate planning attorney, once you got back from vacation?
Yeah, I mean, mononwealth.com is our website, and it's typically the best way for somebody to reach out and to schedule an appointment to either talk with us over the phone or to come in here in person, or if you want, you can just shoot me an email and to kick things off, whatever you want. But I would say that the stuff we've talked about is important. I hope it resonates. You don't have to do this on your own. There's not only myself, but my other team here at Monon Wealth Management and other advisors in the community that provide that provide great leadership in checking off these boxes and moving you in the right direction. Clearly, I would prefer if you'd reach out to us, but if that's not the case, I really think having a good professional on your side to sit alongside you and to push you along the way is the best way to make sure that all this stuff actually gets done.
Fantastic. Well, Darrick, look, I know you're a busy guy. You got clients to serve, so I'll let you get back to doing that. But thanks for giving us that peek behind the curtain today, diving into your financial world, and looking forward to being back on the next one with you.
Yeah, thanks. So do I, Ryan.
All right. Thank you, Darrick. And hey, folks, we're going to take a final beat here and thank you guys for stopping by and, of course, spending time with us on the show. If you learned a thing or two, you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure you hit that subscribe button then on whichever platform you checked us out on today, so that you don't miss out on any future conversations between Darrick, myself, maybe a guest on our show where we dive into these interesting wealth management concepts so that you and yours can come out better for it in your own financial world. Before Darrick, I'm Ryan. We're going to go ahead and say so long now. But once again, we appreciate you stopping by and being with us on Modern Wealth Management.